¿Empezamos ya? Valeria, can you hear me?
Sí.
Okay. Hola a todos y bienvenidos a Alba Habla. Yo me llamo Alba y en este episodio voy a hablar con Valeria Posso, que trabaja en LAMF, que es el Latino Action Network Foundation. Ella es una experta en por qué el juventud es el futuro. Y I'm really excited to get started. So, Vale, introduce yourself a little bit. I want to get to know you.
Of course. Buenas noches todo el mundo, buenos días, buenas tardes, la hora que estén viendo esto. Yo me llamo Valeria Posso, yo soy parte de la ANEF, que es Latino Action Network Foundation. Nosotros somos una fundación de latinos en acción, somos una red de profesionales, de madres, de padres, de la comunidad latina, y yo tengo el rol de organizadora de juventud y yo he estado haciendo este trabajo ya por los últimos casi 2 años. Lo voy a decir en inglés. Yo soy, hi everyone, my name is Valeria Posso. I am the youth organizer at the Latino Action Network Foundation. We are a nonprofit serving the Latino and BIPOC community. I'm very excited to be here today.
Okay, perfect. So since we're going to be talking about the young and people of the younger generations, where are your parents from? Did you grow up speaking Spanish? Kind of just talk about like how you grew up in that sense.
Of course. So my parents were born in Colombia. I was also born in Colombia. We came here to the U.S. at 3. Well, I came here at 3. We came here in 99. My parents were very young and very ambitious. They wanted to start the American dream. And yeah, we settled in New York and then later moved to Jersey, where I still reside now.
Okay, so what's your relationship like with, not like Colombia, but like how often do you go back? I mean, like, do you go back often? And like, what's your experience when you go back?
I love that you asked me that. I get that a lot, but I am actually DACA recipient. So ever since I left, I have not gone back to Colombia. And so I feel like it's always that I was raised in a Colombian household with Colombian culture, and I listened to Colombian music my whole life, but it was always here in the US. So I think and I'm 27, so I came here at 3. And I have yet to go back.
Do you want to go back? I mean, I'm going to Colombia in 2 weeks, and I'm so excited.
I'm so jealous. Don't talk to me. Yes, I miss Colombia. It's like there's a part of me that exists, but I don't know. And it's funny because I lost the Spanish at one point, and I was like so determined, like I need to know it because I know I have to be in touch with my roots, and I know I'm going to go back one day, and I can't be that American cousin who doesn't know Spanish.
Yeah. I mean, I went to Colombia for the last time I went back besides in August was when I was 5. So I like don't remember anything, and I was only there for like 2 weeks. I was there for like a wedding or something. And I went back, and like you said, the whole part of you, like not knowing the part of you that exists is so true. Because I also grew up, I mean, because my mom is Colombian, but my dad is from here. But for the most part, it's been like mainly like Colombian, like kind of household. Like my first language was Spanish. And so like when I went over there, it was just like so cool because like it's almost like I didn't know like this part of me existed. Like I came out like having like a deeper understanding of who I was and also like why. Like it's just like so different because like one of the things that like I love is that like you walk into like a doctor's office anywhere, and then everyone in the room is like buenas, hola. Everyone in the room is like hey. And here it's like so different. You don't say hi to everyone when you walk into a room. That's like weird. You don't do that.
Well, I love that you're going back, and like I think you're now older and you're going to get such a different experience. So let me know how it goes because I think it's so important for us to be in touch with that side. And like you said, over there, it's such a familiarity with one another that up here we don't have because everyone is from so many different like walks of life.
Yeah. I really enjoyed my time there. I think you should definitely go. But how did growing up with Latino parents influence who you are today? How did it, like, even though you didn't grow up in, I mean, you spent some time in Colombia, but how did, you know, being around that culture like affect you?
Yeah. So in New York, I think it was like the white flight was happening at the time. And so like a lot of people were migrating out, a lot of Spanish people were coming in. But I was one of the first like Spanish girls in my class. So I remember New York being very different. But here in Jersey, I do remember, actually, I came here in Jersey and it was very similar to New York. And then throughout time, it became more Hispanic and more Latino. But I think that the way that it influenced me was I grew up with, I remember like around this time, we go back to school in January and it was like, how was your Christmas morning? And I was like, I didn't have a Christmas morning. Like, we partied all night. And I opened presents at midnight for some reason, you know?
Yeah.
And so they were always like, what is she talking about? And my
Yeah.
teachers were always so curious to know, like, how did Valeria spend her like New Year's? How did she spend her Christmas? You know, and then like, for example, you know, this week we had El Dia de las Velitas and in Colombia, and like we light up candles. And I remember my mom just buying a whole bunch of like the little small circle candles from like the dollar store, but then like none of my neighbors were doing that. And so I
Yeah.
think that's what was different, right? The fact
Mm-hmm.
that I ate different food. I ate, you know what I ate every morning? My dad would make me black coffee with cheese and then like bread and like, and he would just hook it up and it would be like sausage and like just so much
Yeah.
stuff. And and I know that's not what my friends were. They were having cereal for breakfast.
Yeah.
So I think that was really the difference. It's just we just have such a different way of a lifestyle, and
Yeah.
their values are so different. My dad, he grew up with like 12 brothers and sisters, and so he grew up in a farm, and he taught me how to really stay humble and true to my roots,
Mm.
which is something I admire a lot. And my mom, she's a super city girl, very family. Like we're from Cali, Colombia, so we love salsa. My mom is a super salsera, and they knew that they had to teach me that from young, and they did. And so, yeah, I think that's how I was really impacted growing up.
That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, like I said before, my dad is like from here. So I think it's like been for me like kind of a mix. And sometimes it's like hard to find that balance when I go to like not like a super like diverse school. I live in Coltsneck. Like it's not really like that. Like I have like one Spanish speaking friend, which I'm like so grateful to have and everything. But it's like, I don't know, like before, like I think Colombia opened my eyes to a lot of things because like before, like it was hard to like just be like, oh yeah, I'm 50% Colombian, I speak fluent Spanish. It just like didn't roll off the tongue for me because like first of all, like I don't really look that, so like it's just, I don't know, I just felt like it was like a contradiction.
Yeah.
And then when I went over there I was like, oh my god, like I want to tell everyone I'm Colombian, like this is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
so
that. So what was your holidays like?
my holidays are like, I Christmas Eve is like the main focus, at least in my family. And it's always at like either my house or my aunt's house, or some family member's house. And then we eat, we talk. Yeah, it's just Christmas carols. There's no salsa, there's nothing like that. And then we go home Christmas morning, we open up gifts, and then we don't really do anything Christmas Day. We used to go to like other relatives' house and visit other people, but like not so much anymore. And then usually I don't really go on vacation so I usually like go skiing with my dad, or like we just stay at home, we watch movies all day. And then New Year's Eve, and I don't really party New Year's Eve, but I'm so excited because I'm going to be in Colombia
You are
the 23rd to the 2nd.
prime. You're gonna be
Yeah, I'm like so
You're
excited.
gonna get the full experience.
Yeah, I know. I have like my friends over there like texting me like, you're not ready, Alba, you're not ready.
That's
I'm so
awesome.
excited. But yeah, so like I don't know, like the whole thing with like the cereal, like I eat cereal every morning.
Yeah. Oh, me too. No, I'm super American now, though. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think now I'm like more comfortable with like saying like, oh, I'm half and half. But like, I feel like in years past, like, oh, if a teacher was like, say a cool fact about yourself, it was never like, I speak fluent Spanish, which is so cool.
Yeah.
But I just like, I never like said it because I don't know. I just didn't want people to know about it.
I think that a lot of like us, when we have mixed cultures, we really grow up that way. Like we don't know like what to say, how to say it. And sometimes like, oh, I'm a little shy because I'm so different. And, or, you know, or you just don't feel like you have completely like been in tune with that part of you. But I
Yeah.
think that as we grow older, we become very proud of who we are and we start to understand those struggles differently. So I think it's really cool that you're so honest about it too, because I have friends that are like that, but I don't think they'll have the courage. So it's a lot of courage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but now I'm good. And it's gonna like open up like more stuff in my mind the second time I go back. Now that like
Yeah.
I know now what it's like, so I'm happy. I'm excited, and my sister's going too. So I hope she like feels the same thing that I do too.
Yeah. Yeah. Just make sure you guys stay in sync and stay, you know, talking so you guys could both go through the motions together.
Yeah. So what are some things that like I know you're an activist. I know you're like very active in that sense. So what are some things like growing up that like maybe bothered you, maybe like triggered that side of you?
A lot.
Okay.
Um, so I remember just like the difficulties that my family experienced that my other colleagues probably didn't experience.
Mm,
And it mainly started like more towards like middle school. I started to understand. And then when I was in middle school, the recession had happened. So that kind of
okay.
took a hit on us even harder. The whole Latino community, like the immigrant community, minorities overall. And I started to try to learn. And then after middle school, I went to a private school. It was a Catholic school. So during the time that we were at that school, you had to complete a certain amount of community service hours. And my dad was super involved in um, nonprofit organizations because he would see injustices happen and then he would speak up on them. And so he just started, you know, kind of getting in tune with the community. And so then he's like, oh, you have community service hours? Let's go like Saturday morning to the hospital so that we could start helping people at this health fair.
Mm,
And then in this health fair, it was like over 500 people that would come in like a 2 3 hour base, like in a 3 hour basis. And it was just like so many people, but it was people who didn't know any English like my dad and I did, who, you know, just came to the States with their baby and the baby needed healthcare. And so that's when I started to learn. And so I honestly like thank my dad a lot for putting me in those rooms and like me being so young and just seeing these things happen. And I remember people just being super grateful. They were like, oh, thank you so much for helping me out, like translate to the doctor what was going on. And I'm like, no worries. Like, it's no big deal. Like, it's really no big deal. Like, this is just me. Like, this is me at my mom with my mom at the doctor's office. Like, it was really no difference.
yeah.
So that's really where I started like my passion for helping out my community.
So it started like from like seeing struggles in your own community, basically.
Yeah, and just seeing how different that environment was, you know, like compared to other environments. Like, so I'm in Trenton, but then like Hamilton is right next to us, and then I went to school in Hamilton. Like that's where my private school was,
Mhm.
and that's where I saw the difference.
Yeah. Okay. So you were Trenton is like an inner city kind of place, right?
Yeah, yeah, it
Okay,
is.
for sure. So okay, so you went to school in Hamilton, and then I guess like coming back home and seeing, how everybody else is. Yeah, totally. I can see how that can affect
Yeah, yeah, and
someone.
it's literally like, for example, like how it's like Jersey City and Hoboken. Like you can see the
Mm,
differences sometimes. Like you really feel the differences.
yeah. Okay. So when did you start like taking an initiative with like that
I was
inspiration?
13. Yeah, I was 13. I was 13 and my first like volunteer work was doing community IDs because actually it's so crazy because I remember when I started with the foundation, I found a picture of who my boss is now and then she was in the picture with my dad in like
Wow.
2002. And then I like took a picture. I was like, Jess, like you're with my dad in this picture. And then she's like, no way, I would have never thought that was your dad. And then that was like Jessa Lee in college. That was like her first college job, like job within college.
Mm,
And it was like so many years ago, but I was also volunteering at that time. So they had passed in Mercer County, they had passed like a community, bless you, a
Thank you.
community ID, a community ID for anybody who didn't have documentation. And so with those community IDs, like you could go to the hospital, you could, if you got pulled over, like you could use it with the cops, but only in Mercer County. So I was one of the first volunteers who started doing that. And that program is still alive today. And the organization, I still work very, very closely with the organization who does that. So I feel like it's like full circle when I think back about it.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
mhm.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
so from there, how did you
Mhm.
like take that like volunteer work and all that? Like how did you take that into college, into your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I needed scholarships in college.
Okay.
So they told me about a program called Bonner. It's called the Bonner Scholar Program, and it started in Princeton. And the school that I went to at Rider University in Lawrenceville, they had the program, and so it was a whole application process. You had to interview, they had to accept you. There was an orientation. It was a lot of perks with being a Bonner. But the thing about being a Bonner is that you have to complete, I think it's about like 2,500 hours of community service in like a calendar school year. So that means that you need to like do a lot. While being a full-time student, you basically have to work full-time during volunteer hours for underserved communities. And so I was a commuter. Rider's only like 15 minutes from me. So a lot of the sites and a lot of the programs that Bonner like hosted were in Trenton. And
Mm,
so I would basically it's like I was going to college, living in Trenton, and then like also serving my community in Trenton, which was so weird. It was the most weirdest thing of my life because I'm with these, I'm not, I don't mean to offend anyone, but there were people that I went to college with that were very privileged.
mhm.
And like they were miles away from home. And meanwhile, this is my home. And
Yeah.
like we're helping my community. So it was like I was in like a whole different universe. And I had difficulty at first, but afterwards I just embraced it. I was like, I'm from Trenton. Like it is what it is.
Yeah. So how were your friends like reactions to like helping the community? Were they like more like judgy? Like how were they?
So I feel like when you first join Bonner, people just do it because it's a scholarship and because you get like a stipend. But the stipend is honestly like not a lot of money. You literally have to be passionate about it. And I did it all throughout the 4 years. And then my last year, my senior year, I was like the senior Bonner intern, which is like a really big, like, is like the biggest role in it because you have to like kind of lead a lot of the programs. And
Mm.
so, I tried to like make as much impact as I could because I really cared about the program. But my friends, I think that in the beginning, it was like people started trickling away. And then people who really cared about it stuck to it. And that's who I ended up eventually connecting with, and people who understood what it was like. And honestly, college was a great experience because it teaches you about so many walks of life. And sometimes you really think you know it all, but you really don't. And there's people who have probably gone through the same things as you, but they see things completely different. And I love that I was able to make so many connections with like my Black friends, my white friends, and just see their points of views and their perspectives because it's so different from a Latina's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's very cool. Oh, that's very cool. I like how you can like come back to your community. I think that's cool how so can you pick like what community you want to help or do they assign you to a certain one?
So you like rank. So you like know there's like probably 10. And so there was like the Trenton Soup Kitchen, there's like after school programs, and there was a couple that was like visiting a pantries. So there was like there were like a lot of different types. So you would rate the ones that you want, and then they would try to sync you up with the ones that work best with your schedule, and then the ones that you did prefer. But a lot of times it was honestly like you just get what you get.
Mm.
But I was very like, I lucked out a lot. However, a lot of the organizations that like I worked with, they didn't stay alive. And I really wish they would have, but it was just like lack of resources. And I love that I'm with like LANF now because they have really done a lot of work, and they really try to find like ways to continue to get funding and to continue like knocking on doors and seeing who can help you, and like just being relentless, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that it's, I've always been relentless, but now it's like to a different level being with the organization that I'm with today.
Yeah, definitely putting that relentlessness into something like really positive.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, that's cool. So, what kind of like, how does this like role in activism, like we talked before about how your dad like helped you become this, but how
Mhm.
does like working with, people who are underserved, and how does this like work like maybe affect you like in your later years? Like, how does it help you like to like help you like become the person you are now?
Yeah, I think that it's helped me be very aware of sometimes like my choice of words or how I communicate with others. I would try to be very intentional. I think that, that's what my years of experience in the work that I've done has helped me to do a lot. And it's always taught me that stay true to yourself, even when others doubt you, and just
Mm.
stay true to like your goal and your vision in mind. I think that my dad did help me, but I'm happy that it was like I stuck to the passions that I felt, and he kind of just like lit the flame. In fact, dad now he's like, Val, like just let it go. Like he's like, people gonna do what they want. And I'm like, Dad, if we all had that mentality, no one would be doing anything. And
Yeah.
so it's like funny, but I feel like now I I sometimes like have to remember to like not always stay so in the work too. Like I can't always be an activist, or I sometimes have to be human, and I allow myself to be human sometimes too. Um and make mistakes and sometimes feel my emotions, because the work that we do and being around I'm still in Trenton, and I try to do my best with the best I can with what I have, and I just try to teach others how to do that too with what they have, and use the resources that not a lot of people know exist,
Yeah.
because we don't know that they exist and we don't think that we are worthy of it.
Yeah. So we're going to come back to the convention and my experience and how you planned everything in that. But just because it relates to this, one of the speakers talked about how, you can, when you're dealing with like work that like, let's say like hits very close to home, it can be like really emotional to like, help people in situations that maybe you were in as well. So how do you like, keep your mental health in check, and how do you like leave, like try not to like put all your emotions into it, because it can be like hard
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, I think that I tend to have a lot of deep brief conversations with like my coworkers and like my boyfriend, and um mainly like those two. Like those are really the support system. Like the people who are doing this work with me, and then like my partner, and sometimes my friends, but I don't really think my friends allow you get it sometimes, just because
Mm.
they'll be like, Val, like take a step back, like you deserve a step back. But it's really like a passion that I have, and the passion stems because I have to give myself limits, and I also just try to. I am very realistic. I'm very realistic. Like I can tell you like, yes, we should do this, and I'll be like, no, I don't think we should do this. And when I mean realistic, I don't mean it like, because what's realistic to me may not be realistic to you, but
Mhm.
I do what's in my capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So you
because
just
I've gone over that. Like I've been in the place where I've done more, and I just wear myself out. Sorry.
okay. So you have like a seems like you have like you're really passionate about this. What would you say to people that like let's say like aren't as passionate about this? Like kind of like I know your dad like is an activist at heart, but like some people do have that mentality where it's like, okay, like I don't care, like it's not my problem.
Yeah.
This doesn't affect me. What would your response to be would be to that?
I think that my response to that would be, it's not like in this lifetime, maybe it didn't affect you. In this lifetime, you aren't facing those struggles. However, that doesn't mean that somebody's path that is next to you, that they are probably going through all of that. And I admire, to me, I feel like most of the time when people are going through so much, they will continue to find a way because that they believe that there's a way out. And the only way out is really for like our community to is for our community to come together. So what I mean is like, I like put yourself in someone else's shoes. And just because you have it good now doesn't mean that it's always been that way within your line, like within your heritage. You know, I feel like a lot of Americans that first came here, like, you know, they did have to struggle. You know, like a lot of Europeans that came here, they struggled, and everything wasn't just like New York City buildings. Like people worked, you know, to make what they have now. And so help others so that they can work to get to that point. And I think that it's really about lending a hand. And I think that a lot of the problems that we face in social issues and political issues is because we really can't empathize with the other person, and we can't even put ourselves in their shoes. I was watching, I'm not sure if are you familiar with the Vanessa Guillen story?
No, I'm not. I don't think.
Okay. There's like a documentary that came out on Netflix, and Vanessa,
Is it about the army soldier?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw the trailer, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah. And so it was a moment where, you know, like they're going to they're like seeing people at like the White House, and they're talking to senators and all these assembly people. And like some of them wouldn't even, like they would just give them basic answers. And I was like, you're not even putting yourself in their shoes. Like their sister, her daughter, like is like missing, it was disappeared for 2 months. And so like they can't, like it's I know it didn't happen to your daughter or to your sister, but what if it did?
Yeah.
And it's like they can't even see from that point.
Yeah, I feel like in general, I feel like society is just becoming a little bit more apathetic to a lot of things. I think it might just be because of the time we're living in, and how like crazy the world is right now. And we see things on the news, we see things in the media, and it doesn't even shock us. Honestly, it makes us like very numb to a lot of things. But if you really stopped and like really processed it, you wouldn't get anything done. I mean, it's depressing, but I think to a certain degree, people have to, you know, care a little bit more, and be a little more empathetic to everything that's going on. And we were actually talking about this in my class last week, how my teacher was saying, you know, how our parents sometimes are like, oh my God, the world is so crazy today. Like back then, like it was so simple, but really like there was never a simple time. There was never a moment in history where like everything is like great. I mean, there's always like stuff happening. The world is always crazy, and it's just different things that are happening today.
Yeah, literally. And I think that the difference then and now is that we didn't have social media and applications and a cell phone in our pockets. You know, I think that there was crazy things happening. It's just that it didn't spread like wildfire like now.
Yeah, I think definitely media influences people different things. Like if we see something crazy, or maybe even just something wrong, first instinct is not to call 911, it's to film. Which is like totally like that's like a crazy thing, like a societal like norm. You see something like, oh, let me start filming, let me get that on tape, instead of like getting, you know, help. So little changes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and you know, I like that you mentioned how you can't just watch it all the time. And so I really think like what I had said earlier, you have to pick and choose your battles. Simple. You have to pick and choose your battles, because you can't do everything, and you also can't watch everything or consume all of that or let it get to you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how did this career in activism lead you to, how do you say it? LAMF? Is it LA?
Yeah.
LAMF? Okay.
We say Land Foundation.
Land Foundation. Okay. So how did it lead you here?
So Jessilee is Dr. Jessilee De La Cruz. She is my executive director. And at Rider University, I became a sister of M Theta Alpha, Latin Sorority Incorporated. So it's a Latina sorority. And I had never met Jessilee. I had spoken to her on several occasions, like when I became a sister. And I saw her and we engaged in conversation. But long story short, she follows me on social, and she always supported me on social media. And there was a moment where I'm not sure if you remember the story of the dad and the daughter that crossed the border from Mexico to US, and then they found their bodies laying upside down in a river. I'm not so okay, so you might have not.
No.
Yeah. So I remember just seeing that picture. I remember like going through my feed and it was like that picture over and over again. I was so traumatized. And then I'm even more traumatized because her name was Valeria. The baby's name was Valeria. And so I like lost it. I like would
Yeah.
just started crying. I was like going through it. And so I launched a t-shirt that said dreams are not illegal. And so the proceeds went to I believe it was like the family, like the mom of like the husband and the daughter. And and then I also donated to a lawyer organization that was like fighting really like big cases in Arizona, I believe. And so she saw that I did that. And then a year later, she contacted me and told me that she had a position open and it was about school desegregation. And so that's really the case that I work in now. As a youth organizer, my goal is to empower the youth and just see how and be in touch with them in terms of like what's going on in their school and the issues that they're facing, because that is really in support of our school desegregation case that we have at Land Foundation.
So is that like a project or mission that you're working on right now, desegregation of schools? Or
Yeah. So Land Foundation became a foundation off of the original LAN. And so LAN is Latino Action Network. And they put in a lawsuit with New Jersey in 2018 because we found evidence and we have facts and we have statistics, and we did a whole back search of how there actually is that segregation. Is called de facto segregation, which means it's not really said, but it's actually happening. Like it's
okay.
not, yeah, like
I learned about this, I think, in Gov last year. I took AP Gov and politics.
nice, nice. Yeah, so you're familiar with it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we say that we were claiming that there is de facto segregation in New Jersey, and parents came forward and students came forward and professionals came forward, and they said that this is true, and we put these allegations towards New Jersey. We had a court case at the beginning of this year in March where it was both of our sides. It was Land side and it was New Jersey side. And it was really interesting because it was a virtual like courtroom, and they both gave their sides, and our side was really strong. And then New Jersey side basically said that they want to know what we think they should do about it, because they kind of hinted and insinuated that it that our statistics really do match, and what you Google is really what is happening. Like if you were to Google the percentage of white students compared to Black or Spanish students in certain districts, it's like super, like they're not equal. Like it's not leveled out. Like what we see in Orange County, like in not Orange County, in East Orange is not what we see in West Orange. So it's like we actually have proven this, and so we're honestly waiting for a decision to happen since that March court case, and they haven't really said anything. We are just waiting for a decision, and it's like 200
You
days.
you said since 2018?
So the court case, so it happened. So we put in the lawsuit in 2018. In 2022, we finally had the court case, and this was in March, and we still haven't heard a response from them. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah.
Wow. Is that just like the court is like backed up, or is it like just doesn't want to take the case, or why do you think that's the way it is?
I'm not sure. None of us are really sure. Honestly, when I talk to people about it, they're always like, you're in it for the long game. They're like, because it is a class action lawsuit. And so they're like, this could take a decade.
Wow.
And we have a marketing team, a media team that we reached out to. They're super awesome. They're called Fenton Communications, and I've been working with them since February, and the court case happened in March. But we were talking today because we're coming to the end of like our collaboration together with Fenton, and they were like, we have never been on a case that like that hasn't finished yet. And like yours is one of them that just hasn't finished since we've worked together. And yeah, we're really just waiting, and we've done I just spread awareness in ways like this. So number one, thank you for having me on here.
For sure.
But we've done rallies on this. We've done op-eds. We've called, the people who are in these offices trying to see what could happen. Our lawyers don't want us to be too pushy because being too pushy could also hurt us in the long run. So we have to be very we have to tread lightly.
Calculated, yeah.
Yeah, we have to be very calculated, very strategic. So we really are hoping, we don't know, maybe it'll be a year and some change. So we really hope it's not going to like take them all the way up until next year to give us an answer. We just want the answer to be a good answer. And so if it's taking long, like I just pray that it's going to be a good response to what they saw and what they know.
So is there like, they have to get back to you, right? It's not like they can just like leave you unread. They have to like actually like, respond.
Yeah, like they can't ghost us. Like if they ghost us, I would literally be so upset. But everyone knows about this, and it's why we do things like the Youth Summit to one, empower the students about just other issues that's going on, not really the segregation, but just to show them how everything is so interconnected. And we do things like this to like spread awareness. And I think my main thing is I don't want them to come back and turn it around and tell us that we have to find the answers, because we're not the ones responsible for this. Like we are not, and they said that they would like to know what we think is a good solution. But we are doing our due diligence nonetheless to do our research, to talk to different individuals from all of the affected inner city communities that, are going through this segregation, de facto segregation, and seeing what their thoughts are and what integration looks like for the future. Like kind of how you were talking about, your experience in school, and how I kind of talked a little bit about mine. I went to a semi-integrated school. Like I would say that my high school was a little, they did a good job at integrating us. But we want to know what the students want. We want to know. So, I would love to ask you that, like, what do you think is like a good integrated school system? Like, what would that look like?
Well, for one thing, my school hosts like the ESL kids. Like, so anyone that comes here and doesn't speak English is like directed, they'll go to my school. And whether now we're getting a lot of, it used to be all like Hispanic kids mostly. So a lot of Central America, a lot of Mexico, some South America. And now we're getting a lot of like Ukraine, a lot of Russia, just because of what's going on right now. But I think like maybe something that maybe could be done is that like the ESL kids, like they have their own classes. They're like totally like separate from everybody else. It's like English speaking kids and like ESL kids. Yeah. And I understand in the beginning why that would be necessary, because they don't speak English. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. You can't keep up in a class where you don't speak the language and you just got here. I get it. But there's a lot of kids that speak fluent English. I have a lot of friends now because I take AP Spanish, and all of them take AP Spanish because it's like an easy class for them.
Yeah.
So they all take that. It's an easy credit GPA booster. And the program does a great job of teaching these kids English, because I'm talking to them, they speak just as well as you and I do. They say like slang words that I know the teachers aren't teaching them. They're just in this country and they learn English as well. And so like, I just don't see like why kids are kept in a program that's like keeping them in that like their bubble. When they write essays in English, they're reading books in English, they speak fluent, they text in English, they talk in English. Oh, what's the point of keeping them in a program that's like not holding them back, but like, like why are we like separate? I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. I don't know why they do that at my school.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's just a little thing that like people are seeing. Like, you know, people talk to kids in that program all the time, and they're like, "You speak fluent English. Why are you in a program that's supposedly teaching English when you already know English?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I experienced that in middle school. I experienced that in middle school where I even had a boyfriend in ESL, and we would communicate perfectly. Like we would communicate perfectly at the time, you
yeah.
know? And so I think that it's not, I agree with you. And I agree that you should have an opportunity to really like engage with them and not be on this pressure kind of moment, and just like let the students all kind of get to know each other, you know. I also feel like in terms of like black students, like they really need more abilities to go to other type of schools and not just be limited to certain districts. You know, I know, like for example, West Trenton here, it's a mixture of a lot of Latinos and Black, but it's a higher Black diversity, and it's higher in Black than Latinos. But I think that within that school system, there's only like 2 or 3 schools that they can go to, and so which isn't as good as Hamilton schools. And
Mhm.
Hamilton is really not that far from West Trenton, you know, and it's not far from Ewing. And so I just feel like Latinos need more representation, and we need better resources. Black students need that as well. You know, Russian and Ukrainian students who are coming and they're being in these ESL classes deserve it too. And I think that I love that you bring that up, because that is just one way how like we are segregated right now. And we're segregating, my one of my best friends, she's an ESL teacher. And
Mhm.
so she tells me a lot about the struggles that they have to face, and how honestly, like during the pandemic, they got no type of support. Like laptops, they were the last students to get laptops. It was just so many different things. And
Yeah.
it's just really unfair.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like I see like little things like, you know, I know like I don't have a lot of friends, but I just got friendly with a lot of people in that program. And like, for example, just like a little thing that I see that's like a little weird, like I know these Hispanic kids, they play soccer day and night. That's like our thing. We
Yeah.
love soccer. Like I know these kids are good. Like we all know how to play. Like they, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, you know, we're trying out for the soccer team in our school. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. You
Yeah.
know, and then it's like weird because only like one of them makes the team.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like
Mhm.
it's like little
Mhm.
things that are like, why are the Latinos making the soccer team?
Yeah.
Like what's wrong?
Yeah. They're
Um
like on the JV team.
yeah, I don't like I like, you know what I mean? Like I know
Mhm.
I'm not like I don't know how these kids play, but I know they know how to play.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so is it really a matter of like talent, or is it like we want kids from like our school to be playing and not like kids in the program to be playing?
Yeah. That happens. That happens a lot. That happens a lot, especially in um, schools where Latinos aren't the majority, and you know they have a limited spots for the soccer team. And sometimes, like I remember, this happened a lot more in college than it did in high school for me, because my high school was very diverse too, and our soccer team were a lot of like um, it was a lot of Italians, it was a lot of Spanish guys, and then we also had like Africans, like Liberians. It was a lot of really big population of Liberians, and they were really, really great at soccer.
Yeah.
But in college, I do remember this, like they were really good soccer players too, but they were playing like club soccer versus
Mm-hmm.
like the ones that were recruited for college. And
Yeah.
so that's where I saw the difference. Like club soccer was all the Spanish guys and
Yeah.
like the multicultural guys, versus like the real soccer where they're getting scholarships, they're getting all these like top bonus, nice
Yeah.
dorms, and you know, all sorry, my cat made a presence.
It's okay.
You know, they were getting all those luxuries, but the you know, others didn't get the same opportunities. So I saw that a lot too in college.
Yeah. So I think it's just like little things that like I just like just rubs me the wrong way kind of thing. Cause I don't know. It's just like makes you like think a little bit more about it. It's not something that I just brush off. It's
Yeah.
it's something that's like, weird, and I want to know why. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that comes from. I want to talk. I want to like, someone makes me like want to go to the tryouts. Like I want to make sure this coach is like watching them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, same. Like, I feel like who isn't paying attention to these students in the classroom, in sports? Like, where is like the attention not being given, and why isn't it adding up?
I think also like something with those kids is that like they come from like very difficult lives. It's not like nothing is handed to them.
Yeah.
Nothing comes easy. And so I feel like teachers can be more understanding to like why kids are falling asleep in class. It's not because like they're up all night playing video games. It's because they're up working all night and they don't have a car, so they have to bike home.
Yeah.
And it's like little things like, like they ride a really, Coltec is the only school that I think, I'm not sure if I'm being factual, but like I'm pretty sure our school is like one of the only like schools with an ESL program. So you're sending kids from like all over the place to our school. So why are you coming in late? Okay, maybe it was because he doesn't live that close to the school, and the bus has a really long ride, and there's traffic, and there's a lot of kids to pick up on the way. So it's like little things that like are just like not understandable to people.
Yeah. 100%, about like 100%. You hit it on the nail, because I remember when I was, well, two things. Recently, I was like speaking to a guy who he's a principal at a school like near Freehold. And he mentioned how basically the school is mainly for young parents, and like 70% of their population is Latino. And he had reached out to Land Foundation because he wanted to partner up and see how we would be able to like help them out with like jobs and being able to have resources. So when you do that, then that means you have a working student, and then that working student is going to be tired, going to class late. They're just going to have more things on their agenda. And then like that happens, right? Like I have friends when, here in Trenton, when I was growing up, they were the oldest, and then they had 2 or 3 little brothers and sisters, and they were like working at like the mall, at like Chick-fil-A, or they were working, at Journeys, trying to provide for their family while also being a full-time student, and like had no social life. Like I really know friends who had no social life because they were working all the time to support their family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a contrast to like the friends that I know. We always have plans. We always have stuff to do in the weekends. And it's like, you never see these kids at football games. You never see them at like, we had like battle the classes. Like it's like things that like little like things that like, it's just different. It's just like different. The lives of like students are just totally different across the board for everybody.
Yeah. And you wouldn't even know unless you speak to them,
Exactly. And it's so easy to like, I guess like judge from the outside and be like, oh my gosh, like these kids, like they just speak Spanish the hallway. I don't even know what they're saying. And I feel like most kids aren't like that at my school. I feel like people are very understanding. And obviously it's like more comfortable to speak to someone in your native language than it is in a language that you have to learn. So I think, but at the same time, it's easy to just be like, oh, like they're so lucky. They're so fortunate to be in a school. They're so fortunate to have this program, which yes, they are. But I think there's like so much more that like could be done, because I don't know why I have so much to say, but like a lot of these kids are like really smart, and like I just start thinking to myself, like, how are these kids going to go to college? How are these kids going to have a career? They can't work at the mall their entire lives. That's not sustainable. That's not realistic. And so you really start to think about these kids, and like you get like invested in them, and you want them to like do more with what they have. I don't know.
And that's really what I'm so happy. Like, I love everything you're saying. I think like I'm very empowered by the work that I'm doing because of that. Because I did the volunteering hours, and I know the friends who really had to do that. And I know the friends who probably dropped out of school early or got pregnant early. And, I always love to like keep an open mind and try to support where I can. And I wouldn't say like when I was your age, I wasn't like the person to come up to you, be like, hey, how's everything going? Like, why didn't I see you at the football game last week? You
Mhm.
know, but now in my older years, I'm like, I should have really asked those questions. Like, I
Yeah.
really should have, like, you know, took a second and been like, yo, what's going on? So that I could be like, okay, let me help you out. And
Mhm.
maybe if I couldn't help them out because I was very young at the time, at least I could support that friend and at
Yeah.
least just try to be there for them, you know, and that's what I feel like your generation is about and the generations that follow. And that's why, you know, when we talk about like, what is the future for La Juventud and what do we want to see and what does integration look like? We really want it to be one, organic, two, very filled with like fulfillment, and three, just like integrity, you know, like just being very honest and just being very willing with one another. And I love that like you understand the ESL like students because you are from that culture, you have that background.
Yeah, and I could go on and on about how Colombia has like impacted my life, but I think really going to the country and just being around Spanish speakers. I didn't speak English for 5 days,
Yeah.
not a word of English for 5 days, and so my Spanish got better
Yeah.
so much. It's like crazy how little time like your the language and something just gets
Yeah.
so much better. And so I just was around like Colombian kids for 5 days, and so then now you put me in a classroom with like all Hispanic kids, and I feel like a year ago I would have been a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
just because like I'm not used to that environment. I didn't grow up like that. My school was just predominantly like white schools.
Mhm.
So and now I laugh at they're so funny. Like I laugh at their jokes. I understand what they're saying. I understand like when they talk fast. And like now I have a best friend and she's Colombian, and I wish I had been friends with her so much sooner because it's so like different with her than my other friends. And my friends are very diverse, but it's different with her because I go to her house and or in her car, and it's not like Christmas carols. We're not playing Michael Bublé. Like
Right.
we're playing salsa, we're playing Bad Bunny, we're playing, and it's just like totally. I go to her house and I smell like the different stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like it's nice. And like my mom too is like best friends with her mom because like
Mhm.
there's not a lot of Colombians where I live. I
Yeah.
like a lot of like Hispanics, but Colombians specifically like not like super like common to come across. So
Yeah.
my mom is like loves her mom. It's just like so cool because like now I have like a friend who's like understands me like in a way that like other people wouldn't be able to understand me.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
for
think
sure. I love that for you. I love that for you so much. Like, it just brings me, like, so much happiness because
yeah,
I actually met one of my she's close we're not as close, but in college, she was, like, my first Colombian friend, and it was,
yeah,
like, night and day, and,
yeah,
you know, I've
yeah,
had Guatemalan friends, I've had Puerto Rican, I've had Dominican, but that one Colombian friend really changes your life. Like, they
yeah.
really do. They really
It's so weird. Like she comes into my house and my mom's like talking to her in Spanish. I've never had that with
Yeah.
anybody else where someone like actually talks to my mom the way she wants to be talked to, and
Right.
like says like, "Oh, si señora," like
Señora.
it's like,
Muchas
it's
gracias.
like yeah, it's like wow, like
Permiso. Like, you gotta excuse yourself just to learn.
I know. Like my mom's so happy when she comes over. Like my mom was telling me today, like my favorite friend is Vale. I'm like, okay, and
Oh, because her name is Valentina.
yeah, her name's
Yes,
Valentina.
I remember, because that's my niece's name.
Yeah, she was at the convention too. So
Yeah, she
we
came with
can,
me.
yeah, yeah. So we actually loved it. It was so not, I mean, it was fun, but also like very like eye opening because we know about, the criminal justice, we know about environment, we know about all this kind of stuff, but like we don't like really know about it. Like if you were to
Mhm.
ask us like statistics, stuff like that, like we wouldn't be able to say anything about it. Or we honestly like I could give you an opinion on it, but I wouldn't be able to like give you a knowledgeable opinion on it. I could just be like,
Right.
oh, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Um, pero yeah, so talk to me a little bit about like how you prepared that convention, how you organized it. I know everything was like intentional.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we started Victor Rivera, he was really one of my helping hands there. He's from Voters of Tomorrow. And so I really wanted to have a youth leader like in the community and someone who's very passionate about all these issues, be the person that works with me. And to be very honest, a lot of what happened was really off his judgment. Like he was really like, let's do it. You know, he's like, let's do this, let's do that. And so I really let him guide a lot of the process. Like I didn't let him know that, but a lot of things that he said I would really agree to. And we started in the summertime, and then like throughout, it was more like September, October, we really like had to like buckle down. And so he really did a great job at doing outreach. We had about 90 people who RSVP'd, but 40 showed up. And so I think that helps us for next year, like our numbers, like, okay, so if 90 RSVP'd and 40 showed up, we have to go to like 200, 300.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, we need food for 90 people. But a lot of the speakers is the people that we work with, the people that do the work day in and day out. And so, and they're a lot of my coworkers, my colleagues, they're not like that far older than me. In fact, I think they're a little bit like younger than me. And so because they are younger than me, I really wanted to give them the opportunity to come and talk to young people as well, and be able to get their message across, why they like their jobs and why they're passionate about these issues and why they are doing the day in and out. Because my work is a little bit different from theirs. Like they do a lot of like testifying in front of like at the state house in like Trenton. Like they are like seeing like los meros, like they're seeing the big people every day. And so, you know, my work is a lot more like in the back lines right now because we're waiting for the court case. But we really tried to pick people who were really experts. And even when it came to like, I'm not sure if you stayed for the TED Talk speaker, Dennis Febo.
Oh wow, yeah. The last guy, that like I think about that speech like at least like once a day since because it totally was just like so like such a different perspective. Like I never ever thought about race in that way, identity in that way.
Same.
Totally like changed my mind.
Same. Like I think like it was like people like like left or like trickling out, and I was just, they were like, I'm so sorry about, like, I don't want to leave, but I was like, it's all good, like don't worry about it. But I do know that like a lot of people left so like moved. And
I'm so glad my mom and her friend got to watch a little bit of it, because, and I told my dad about it too when I got home. I just like it's just so like true. And it totally changed my perspective on stuff.
Tell your dad, like there's a YouTube video for it. Dennis Febo.
He's done the speech before?
Yeah, he did it on TEDx in Jersey City.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that tonight before I go to bed.
It's probably gonna be like a little similar to what he gave us. Probably no, actually no. He was way in depth, I feel like, in our speech at the event. But he is on YouTube. Check him out. But I'm so happy you guys enjoyed it. And next year, we're really going to try to do something like stick within the same, but improve it in every single way we can and get more people out to hear like what we have to say and the issues that we're supporting.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. I loved that last speaker. I thought it was like so cool, and lives like in the car home. Like I just like wanted to keep talking about it. I thought his points were so cool. So how did you like invite him?
So great. I love that you asked that. So Cookie Rivera, she is she's the programs manager at LANF, and she is such a multifaceted woman. I think you probably met her because
she was in the criminal justice. Yeah.
Yep, she was in the criminal justice room. So, yes, she is a spiritual woman. She is a DJ. She's a mother. She's a grandmother of like 20 kids. She is just like a phenomenal lady. And she's the programs manager. So she has a lot of connections. A lot of her work is in prison reform. A lot of her work is she leads a lot of the rallies in Trenton. Actually, she leads a lot of the rallies everywhere. And so she was like, I think a great person who you should have come is Dennis. And so I reached out to him. he agreed. She told me to watch it on YouTube, but I decided I didn't want to because I knew
So that was your first time, like,
that was my first time. I
blind.
wanted to be moved by him personally when I saw him versus seeing the YouTube video. And then actually my boyfriend ended up pitching, like he didn't pitch, but he networked with him afterwards. And now they're kind of like working together.
Wow.
So I think that's really cool that like he could still stay around, because I feel like Fibo is he has just so much knowledge and he just knows so much. And so Cookie referred him over to us. He agreed, he accepted. And honestly, it was so great. And I want to have him every time.
Yes, definitely. I would just come for him. Honestly.
Literally.
Yeah. And I mean, just like, I think just like in general, like his speaking was great. I love how he spoke. He like spoke from the heart. I think everything he said was like so real. Like I like people that keep it real. And my life changed. I don't know if I like, but just like my perspective on a lot of things changed. And I hear stuff in the hallway, I'm like, ooh, I remember like that's not right.
That's not cute.
Yeah. So this is like, I think we're running out of time, but this was like really great. I loved talking to you. Espero que podamos hablar otra vez. Tal vez después de mi viaje de Colombia, porque yo voy a ir en 2 semanas y no puedo esperar. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Bring me some pan de bonos.
Oh my God.
Bring me back everything.
I know. It's going to be, va a ser mis 3 primos, mi hermana, mi mamá, mi tía, mis abuelos, tíos, todo en una casa. Van a
estar reunidos.
Va a ser 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 niñas, un baño.
Pórtense bien, sean muy queridas, like be nice to each other.
Yeah.
And you know how it is in Colombia, like there's no hot water.
But honestly, like I live in Barranca Bermeja, it's so hot.
You don't even
so
care.
It's not even that bad. We take like 3 showers a day. It's fine. So it's okay.
Have fun. I hope you had so much fun. Fue un placer hablar contigo, Alba.
Gracias.
Poder conversar, entenderte un poquito más, porque I didn't get a chance to talk to you that day at the conference, and I'm honestly so happy we did it like this instead, so we could really get to know one another.
For sure. I'd love to like do a part 2 to this, because I feel like there's so much stuff that we didn't even like touch on.
Go over. Let's do it. I'm down. I'm free. Sure. Like you let me know your schedule. I'll accommodate.
Okay, for sure. Okay, thank you so much. Gracias a todos por mirando el programa y nos vemos cuando nos vemos. Okay, chao.
Gracias, chao.
Somos el vínculo para educar, empoderar y organizar a las comunidades migrantes. Queremos defender nuestros derechos civiles y humanos. Si eres estudiante, jornalero, trabajadora doméstica o te interesa conocer más sobre tus derechos, síguenos en nuestras diferentes plataformas. Somos Radio Jornalera New Jersey.